Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
How else would I know that you need pituitary support, hypothalamus support? I would know that if you had hot-cold fluctuations like menopause. Let's say your hands were always cold. We'd call that a thyroid symptom, but it can also be hypothalamus symptoms. Let's say your weight. I can't lose weight, or I feel like my appetite is too low or it's too high. I can't seem to control those things. Those are all hypothalamus things as well. So some of you think, I just keep wanting to eat. I can't stop myself from eating. That would be something to consider for hypothalamus support. Yes?
Is this mostly a female issue?
Nope. Both male and female. Males have hypothalamus just like females. And so now if you go down to the next one we put on the list is the pituitary, because it's the next, is it adrenals next? Adrenals. So I put them in that order because the adrenals handle a very important thing in our life. And we are combated by it every single day. We're hit by stress. So your body's constantly being bombarded by the stresses in your life. Now, what are the types of stress in our life? Sure, taking care of aging parents. So, family stress. Absolutely. Is that a mental stress? For sure. How many of you have a job that's just wonderful and you love it? Good. I do love my job as well. And so, that's a little less stress, but some people don't love their job. And their jobs become very stressful. Or they love it, but it's still high stress. How many of us maybe don't eat as well as we could or should? That's a chemical stress, most of us. And that chemical stress, we could say, is a physical stress too. And some of us has stress just simply by, the accidents and injuries that we're exposed to, or the lifting at work, or the day-to-day stuff that we do, or the positions that we have to be in. So those are the types of stress that our adrenal glands are constantly trying to balance. How do the adrenals do that? The adrenals do that with a number of minerals, but two of the most important are zinc and copper. And so when I do a hair test, I'm going to be looking at zinc and copper balance, and it's going to tell me how are your adrenal glands doing. In 15 years of doing a hair test, I have yet to see an adrenal, first time on a client, over 10% function. I've seen some at 1%. They're bad. And what I'll find that happens is I'll see a match where adrenals are really low and there's an organ that has now taken its place and is equally as high. And this will be important to you. It's the thyroid. So the thyroid is going to try to come to the rescue. So the first thing that happens to us is we pile on stress. And our adrenals and our hypothalamus are trying to handle those stressors. When those organs begin to cave because they're under so much pressure that they're now depleting themselves of nutrients, which they will do, now they no longer can support. And now they're going to go after the gonads. So they're going to go after the testes and the ovaries. They say, hey, you guys got to help me. I'm going to have to use your testosterone or your progesterone in a way to help me battle stress. Yeah.
Is all stress bad stress?
No, there is distress and eustress. It's a great indication. If I'm working out and building muscle, we would call that eustress. I'm building up myself to my environment, and that's okay. But distress is literally those that's tearing us down. And so we might see something like the stress of my job is distressful. Maybe it's a good stress because there's a lot of positive things happening, but it's still change. That would be more of a eustress. How am I coping with that stress? Do I have good coping mechanisms with my brain to do that? Now, there's things that we can do that help you cope and use your brain better and really be at a much higher vibration so that it says, hey, I can handle these things. I can take this in stride. And those are things we can actually help manage too. But one thing you'll notice by doing the hypothalamus and pituitary support and adrenal support, that all of a sudden, wow, I can really handle life much better. Things don't affect me like they used to. And that becomes important as we go through life, because if we're going to make it to the end and really still have lots of energy and still repairing and still looking young and feeling healthy and being vibrant, truly healthy, those are things that are going to be very important to us. So as we begin to take down the gonads, the ovaries and the testosterone, we now start to really get more symptoms. That's when we start to get more weight gain. We start to get more fatigue. We don't sleep as well. We don't think as clearly. And so then finally, when those start to collapse and go down, now the thyroid comes in to try and save the day. And thyroid literally means shield. And so I love that the body tells me so much about what's going on with somebody. I had a newer client today, and I was looking at him, and I saw the outer third of their eyebrow just almost completely gone. And that is classic thyroid. So the thyroid, what it does is it's very integral to calcium and muscle. And so what's holding on to the hair of my head right now? We think it's just like a hair follicle. Well, it's like these cells are like this, and it's like this little ball sitting in it, and there's all this blood around it that's feeding the hair follicle. And as the hair follicle comes up, there's a little muscle that attaches to it. Well, if that muscle gets weak and lets go, guess what happens to that hair follicle? It falls out. Okay, and that's thyroid. It's calcium. It's heart. It's vascular. We had, is it Viagra that was for hair falling out? And they realized these men would come back and say, my erection happened for 4 hours after I took this. And they're like, what? And, as a side effect of taking this stuff for their hair loss, they realized it was actually vascular, because that's what they were trying to help here, create more vascular stuff so that the hair would grow. Well, what should that tell us as men and women, that when we're having hair issues, it's really a heart issue. It's a vascular problem. Well, why am I not looking at that specifically instead of trying to take a drug that's going to try to dupe my body into making my vascular system better or my heart better? And we need that. And so for men, we have this wonderful indicator every morning of how our health is and how our hormones are doing. Every morning, even up into 65 and 70, about 5 days a week, we should be waking up with a morning erection. That's normal for men. But did they tell us that in school? Hey, there's a way to see if you're doing good hormone-wise, men. Women, they get to look once a month for a week and see how their cycle's running. How do they feel on day 14 at ovulation, and how do they feel right before their cycle comes? You get some look at your ability hormone-wise, but men, we get to see it every morning. And that's something that should happen. It is amazing that men at age 40 say, that doesn't happen to me at all anymore. And as we start working on hormones with men, all of a sudden they'll come in after 3 or 4 months and say, that's totally changed. I didn't realize that was even supposed to happen, they say. They just thought they were getting old and that was normal. There's nothing normal about not having those. And so do begin to watch that. So as you improve your health, you should see those things beginning to happen. That's good. Women don't realize that they should be cycling. I mean, even the literature says, hey, perimenopausal women might skip a couple cycles and might have a lengthy cycle, might have a double cycle, and then all of a sudden they'll just stop. I'm like, that's actually not truly normal. They'll cycle along and then all of a sudden their body's prepped and one day they will stop. And that's it. I see very few women do that. I have them. They do that. But it's not common. So in menopause, we should see that, they still build muscle. Their skin doesn't get flabby or their flesh doesn't get flabby. That's progesterone and estrogen balance. So if my ovaries shut down and I no longer produce progesterone from them, where's my progesterone coming from as a woman? There are people out there thinking that women should just not stop cycling. Could you imagine? That's not how it's supposed to be, by the way. And we don't want to keep you cycling. There is a gland that now produces your progesterone. The adrenals require a lot of nutrition to keep that progesterone up, to keep your bones strong, to balance estrogen correctly, to make muscle, to protect your digestion, to protect your brain, to make you vibrant and still want to live life and feel great instead of feeling really bad after menopause. That's not the goal. And so what's hitting our body all the time that we talked about, it's stress, and stress is continually depleting our adrenals. 500 years ago, we would all right now be sitting around a campfire talking about the day's events and having communion, if you will, and eating and watching our kids grow up, and it was a low-stress life. We would be eating animal organs. We would, right now at the end of summer, we might even be collecting some grain that we found, and fattening up for winter, so to speak. This is how our lives would have been. And we would have continually repleted our body by eating these high nutrient-dense foods. What do we do now?
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Dr. Munson at 360-893-8586 or email him at chiroman@dr.com. That's chiroman@dr.com. Check out our current workshop schedule on Facebook at Infinity Whole Health.